Welcome back, lovely ladies. If you want to become the woman of your dreams, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. And join our Patreon for even more exclusive content. Now, let's dive into today's story.
I woke up and something had changed. The first bad sign, that I woke up. When's the last time I had to sleep? The second bad sign, that there weren't cries of anguish, concern, or fawning when I woke up grumpy. Normally, that's a one-on-one thing. If I wake up in a bad mood, people are definitely going to feel it around me. It's pretty much a gut reaction. I got up and swung the plain white cotton bedsheets off me. I was in a rat-infested dunghole. Well, I suppose it'd be fine for most of you, but I'm used to a little higher fare. I stepped into the bathroom. What a quaint room. All white, shiny tile and porcelain. I suppose if one needs to wash off the dirt or squirt out effluvia into porcelain like a hairy mammal, that one would want to make it easily cleanable. But there's what I'm looking for. The mirror. And I nearly screamed. What the hell had happened to my body? I used to look like a Greek god. Now I look like a geek god. I no longer have a chiseled jaw or broad shoulders or pectoral and abdominal muscles, looking as if they were rendered out of marble. Now I just look rather gangly. Well, at least that's easily fixable. Without barely a moment's thought, I push my will out upon the universe what I want and look into the mirror. And nothing's changed. And a bolt of sheer terror, yet another first for this wretched day, bolts through my psyche. The next 10 minutes are spent in futile attempts to affect my body and my environment. I spend a good 4 minutes telling my body to resculpt itself into an Adonis-like form before I, at least for now, give it up as a lost cause. Then, I attempt to change my surroundings into something more palatial, but I can't even change the pillowcase. And suddenly, I realize that non-omnipotent mammals can't wish their effluvia away, and that's what I appear to be trapped as. And while I'm sure I knew at one point, for humiliation purposes of course, all the various intricacies of how these mammals urinate and defecate, some of that knowledge, which I hadn't accessed in a while, it's rather gucky after all, and one can be so much more creative, appears to have gone with my power, and I learn about splashback and aiming this wretched meat tube when one needs to get rid of it all. Some awfully bubbly female pop singer starts up an awful chirruping in the other room, singing the same words over and over again in a loop. In annoyance, I lash out and turn her and her whole family line into baboons. When she keeps singing, I sigh and realize I can't do that anymore. Walking into the other room, the noise seems to be coming out of a phone on the nightstand next to the bed. Although I'm not familiar with this device, it doesn't take much to press the big green answer button on the screen. Holding it up to my ear, a bit of a new experience, I'm used to just summoning people, I say, "What?" "Robert." Let me pause for a moment here because something odd happens at this point, something nearly as scary as losing my power. My name wasn't Robert, but now it is. I didn't have a name. Those of us walking through your worlds usually don't. But the moment he said Robert, I recognized that as my name in the same way that you might recognize your name as Peregrine or Sibelia. The moment he said my name, a small bell rang throughout my soul. You should pardon the expression. And I was Robert. I'm used to doing that to people, not to having it done to me, and I did not like that. I did not like that one bit. The mortal was prattling on, and since I could not turn him into a baboon, I suppose I best pay attention to what he was saying. "Hello? Are you there?" "Yes," I replied, trying to modulate some of the annoyance out of my voice. "I'm sorry, I was gathering wool." "What? You're 20 minutes late and you're not even paying attention?" 20 minutes late? To what? "For your shift. Listen, I don't know how much hooch you drank last night. I don't care how hungover you are right now. Get your ass into work in the next 20 minutes or don't bother coming at all. Only reason you're not fired already is that I don't want to have to train another shithead and get him up to speed." And with a click, he was gone. Shithead, eh? Let's see how you like being a sentient porta-potty, my friend. Oh, damn. Mammals have to go to jobs, of course. They get coin for it, and they exchange that coin for shelter and for bread and for cloth to put on themselves. And as much as I hate to admit it, even to myself, right now I'm about as powerless as a mammal. I appear to outright be a mammal, and as much as that'll change at some point, that means I have to dress the part, slum it, walk amongst them, And since I don't want to be one of those vagabonds I see on the street asking for coin, whose number I have occasionally added to, I best get to this job I am apparently late for. I apparently don't need to drag a blade across my face at the moment. It's actually quite soft to the touch. Comes from a newborn body, I suppose. With 20 minutes to get there, no time for ablutions. I swipe the odor remover stick under both arms. God's wounds, that's an awful stink. I open my wardrobe door and pull out. Wait a minute, where am I going? Who am I dressing for? I go back and look at this phone. The Choice Canteen. I'm working at some form of saloon. I pull a button-up shirt and dress slacks from the wardrobe. I look in the mirror. My hair is a little bit shaggy. I best have a barber address it at some point, but it's manageable. I pull the dress slacks up to my waist, slip the apartment's keys into the left front pocket, a tight fit. Look for the billfold, shove it into the right front pocket, a tighter fit. Run my fingers through my hair and take a step forward, expecting to step into a remote corner of the restaurant. Damn it! I run, majorly out of breath and sweaty, in through the front door of the restaurant. A brown-haired serving girl quickly comes up to me and says, "Roberto." And that bell rings again. And I am Roberto and always have been, and I am unnerved even more. What are you doing coming in the front? You want Graydon to chew you a new one? Go around back to the employee entrance. Of course. Thank you, I say to the woman, and walk around to the back of the diner, quickly finding the kitchen entrance, to which I am greeted by a round of apparently good-natured hooting, all along the theme of, "Woo-ee, don't you look fancy?" A man quite a lot taller than me comes through the kitchen on a direct line for me, an angry look on his face that gets darker as he sees me. I feel an emotion I haven't felt in an epic age. I grow nervous at his approach. What have I done wrong aside from my lateness? "What? Did you come straight from one of your clubs?" The man, I assume, is Graydon, says, looking at my outfit. "This is not your busboy uniform. I can't have you bus tables when you're dressed up like some sort of suave homeboy. I'm going to have you wash dishes today. You're lucky I don't send you home." "I'm going to... what?" I cast him into the vilest pits of hell. I wish him into the cornyard. I turn him into a sentient piece of defecation worming its way through the small intestines of a constipated dachshund. I turn him into a garden snail whose shell is just about to be painfully shattered by an army boot. And I realize I can do none of these things. And I say, gritting my teeth, "Yes, sir," and head back towards the sinks. And suddenly a bolt of pure fear goes through me because the world has changed in just the last few seconds. I am hyper-aware as I realize that this room and each thing and person in it seems noticeably bigger than it was just a few scant moments ago before my mental tantrum, and my hair now suddenly seems not only longer, but seems to be gathered and resting against my back. I wash what's there and ask the kitchen lead for a quick bathroom break, which he grants with a silent affirmative motion, delivered with an arrogance worthy of my former self. I step into the bathroom and look in the mirror, and finally my intellect seems to wake from the damnable sleep it must have been in for this entire morning. No need to shave, slacks fitting tight around the waist with little pocket room, long shaggy hair now resting in a ponytail against my back, diminutive frame now even shorter than it was when I woke up. I am apparently being turned into a wench. Swounds, blast God's teeth, shit damn fuck. My anger blasts in a million exhortations a second as I curse those around me to various fates that my now paltry mortal will cannot affect. There is a banging on the door as the kitchen lead's rough voice comes through. "Yo, fairy, you fall in?" I might have dismissed that as merely a semantic barb in the infantile traditional male-to-male, "no you are gay" vocabulary exchange, had I not caught a glimpse of myself on the way out. I had changed even more. I had small breasts, pushed down by a sports bra which was apparently visible through my unbuttoned shirt. The hair looked even more roughly shaggy, although still held in place by a rubber band. My eyebrows were apparently plucked and shaped. Damn, did I have no sense of protective coloration? And my face seemed more tapered and, dare I say it, haunted. I reached down and still felt the male equipment in place. I was apparently now on hormones, transitioning from male to female. "Coming," I said as I swiftly buttoned up my shirt. I have cursed people to their own figurative hells before. Do I actually send them to hell? I don't know. I never knew of a heaven or a hell, of a god or a Satan. I could curse people to an environment I visualized in my head and visit them there, but was it merely my own mental construct or the actual hell? Beats the, you'll pardon the expression, hell out of me. But, as I was saying, I have cursed people to their own figurative hells before, but I had never thought of this particular hell that I was living through. And what made it particularly vicious was how these brutes put their imaginations to work to employ virtually no powers other than their mammalian bodies and what was around them. Now, granted, they didn't result to outright physical torture. We were at the job, of course, and certain pretenses must be maintained, but the number of times hot water was abruptly dumped into the sink, or knives nearly caused cuts, the number of times I was accidentally shoved hard to the ground, and what made it worse, I had to hold on to my temper. I kept a tight rein on myself, because I had figured out something. I'm sure some of you have it by now, but for those who haven't, every time I angrily lashed out with my non-existent powers, my transformation into a woman took a step forward. So each time a brute shoved me, each time I picked up a dish and endured the simple humiliation of having to wash off people's half-masticated, saliva-saturated food bits off their plate, each time I heard "faggot" hissed under someone's breath, not only did I restrain myself from lashing out a fist, which would have had little effect from this small body, I had to restrain myself from lashing out my temper, and this went on for hours. But I will not subject you to the repetitiveness of the hatred that I had to deal with. Original or creative they were not. One very small thing I will give this process. Hell makes you enjoy the smallest of heavens. When you can't adjust the weather to suit your whim, you actually enjoy sunshine and a warm spring breeze with the smallest hint of loam to it, because it's all the more random. Out in the back, I was eating a ham sandwich and a bag of chips from a local sandwich chain, like I would trust the cretins inside there with my food, while letting the sun shine on my face and the breeze help refresh me from the muscle fatigue that washing 20 million dishes had brought about. The back door opened. My gaze instantly turned in that direction, certain that I was about to be manhandled once more. The brunette waitress from before came out. "Are you okay, honey?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Thank you for your concern." And then, to my great surprise and embarrassment, and for the first time in quite literally my existing memory, I burst into tears. Fortunately, she wore a name tag, so I needn't guess at a name I was supposed to know. My savior's name was Jody. When I began to weep, she gathered me in her arms and leaned my head against her shoulder, saying soft, "There, there," as she patted my back. For perhaps the first time, I found myself deeply grateful for at least one aspect of what was happening to me. I had not been embraced by someone under their own volition in nearly all of my memory, and certainly not in a body small enough that a woman could circle her arms around it. I presume that perhaps I had as a child, but those memories vanished so very long ago. Finally, the tears ran dry and I looked at her. I had left tears and snot where I was sobbing. She saw where I was looking and said, "It's okay, honey. I'll run it under some water for now and throw it in the wash tonight." She held out a hand underneath my chin and lifted my face up. "You are so brave to be transitioning like this, but you needn't put up with the shit they're subjecting you to in there. File a claim with the EEOC. Tell Graydon you'll sue his ass and the restaurants if they don't shape up. You don't have to be so tough." She started to walk back in, and then turned back and came up to me. "And please know, I am your friend. I don't know how to handle all those guys in the back for good, and I can't do it all for you, but I am your friend, and I will support you however I can. The world is not only comprised of those fuckheads back there." Try as I might, a few errant curses freed themselves from my temper in the days that followed. And boy, oh boy, would they have been creative had I actually had the power to implement them. My community circle would have given me a standing ovation, but the cost, oh, the cost. My hips swelled outward, my ass sticking out of the slacks. My breasts grew just enough to become difficult to hide even with the sports bra, and my voice, while still sounding male, sounded weak and even somewhat breathy. Needless to say, my even more feminine appearance was even more antagonizing to the kitchen critics. And finally, that Friday, I had a full stack of dishes I was bringing over to the drying rack, and the most elementary of childhood pranks was done. An outstretched foot. I tripped, and 30 dishes went flying everywhere, most shattering on the floor. I heard a round of ironic applause from the dining room, as well as hooted laughter from the men around me, and my anger grew and grew and grew, and I stepped down on it, but it grew, and it exploded, and the world changed. A gravelly female voice said, "Christ, Bertie," and that bell rang in my soul that had rung twice before, and I knew I was Bertie. "Are you okay? Ramona, you dumb bitch, you gotta watch where you're going." A skinny Latina who hadn't been there before, who I had never met, in hair cap, white t-shirt, and black jeans, the kitchen outfit, gave me a grin both sheepish and apologetic, and grabbed one arm to help me up, with the owner of the gravelly voice helping me up by the other arm. "Oofta," she said as she pulled me up with one meaty arm. I looked around the room and realized that the entire back kitchen crew were all women. I said, "No, it's okay," and tried not to startle at the female voice coming out of my own mouth. I reached down to dust myself off and did startle when I saw what I was wearing. A waitress outfit. In the past that had never happened, but apparently it just had. I-ass Bertie had evidently come in, and by doing so rammed the swinging door into the formerly non-existent Ramona, making her drop the dishes. Once more quickly back into the bathroom, although Graydon was screaming for me up front. My face was just on the female side of androgynous. I was short as hell, with hip bones jutting out from a rather straight Asa Raelish body. A sort of brittle, ugly orange hair was tucked haphazardly into that same rubber band. A swift cupping of my pelvis confirmed that I had no dangly bits, just a warm mound in between that gave me a slight shock as I touched the more sensitive bits. My self-examination was swiftly cut off by a bellow. "Bertie, get your ass out there!" Had I known how much of an improvement the life of Bertie would have been over the life of transitioning Roberto, I would have lost my temper quite a while ago. Plus, it meant I got to work the tables with Jody. Whenever I was on shift, she was on shift, so we got to know each other quite well. How did I turn the kitchen crew? I didn't. At least I don't think I did. I didn't wish them into women. I just angrily yelled into the ether and wished for a kinder, more settled world. But either way, it happened. And the all-women kitchen crew were a far nicer and less homophobic, transphobic, chauvinist bunch than the people that had been there before. Nonetheless, I was afraid to lose my temper again. Now that I was a woman, I didn't want to bounce off this gender pole and start going back in the opposite direction. I didn't enjoy being a transitioning man, and I didn't want to revisit that circumstance, so I did what I could. I started listening to meditation tapes in the morning. I learned how to breathe with my diaphragm to calm me down when a dish got dropped or I got stiffed on a tip. I bought a small television set and began to accumulate the cultural knowledge of the day. I went to the library and checked out books and started reading them too. John Grisham and Tom Clancy weren't Ernest Hemingway or William Shakespeare, but I did enjoy their stuff nevertheless, and I enjoyed making Jody laugh. She was a good friend. She'd look at me with bright eyes when she laughed. And one day she gave me a quick peck on the cheeks after recovering from a fit of giggles I had caused with a particularly good, if ribald, joke, and looked to see how I'd react. She seemed to like the fact that I didn't say anything, but looked at her with wide eyes that must have shown at least an inkling of something. I don't know where it would have gone from there, because something happened. Something horrible. "Bertie, table 12 wants you." "Quit joshing me with Gray, there's no one at table 12. "Are you high, girl? You just served him a well-done steak." "What?" I looked out at table 12. A very nondescript man sat there looking towards the kitchen. When he saw me poke my head out, he gestured with a come-over gesture. I had never seen the man before in my life, yet supposedly I had not only taken his order but served up his food. What was going on here? Taking a deep breath, I headed on over. "Hello, sir. Is the food not to your liking?" I said, falling back on the pre-canned waitress lingo I had picked up and could dish out without much thought. He grabbed my hand, yanked me towards him, and took a deep breath from the inside of my wrist. "What the fuck?" And then he smiled, and I knew that one of my circle had found me. This was the worst of all possible outcomes. "So," he said, smiling with a mouth full of sharp teeth. He had always liked the theatrical, this one. I'm surprised there weren't darkened clouds rolling in. Yup, there they go. "I finally found you. You were looking?" When one of us who walk across the world completely disappear without a trace, there's usually something juicy at hand. But now that I've scented you, I know the truth. Someone's neutered you. Girl, he said, putting a particular mocking emphasis on the last syllable. Who got here before me? No one, I said mildly. I woke up one morning to find myself this way. Could be a hidden player in the shadows. You might want to clear out before they get you too. You're in an all-fired hurry to get rid of me, he said, smiling. Listen, I said, keeping my voice calm, trying not to think of Jody waiting for us to take our lunch break together out back, most likely due to come in any second. Just don't want to watch someone else fall victim to whatever got me. Take a friendly warning and stay clear of the area. Friendly. Consider it payback then for the favor you did me in Polrugaria. Ah, he said, lost momentarily. That was a fine meal. Snapping back to the present, though, I saw his greed reassert itself. I know what he was after. Still, he said, pulling me down to the table, I don't think so. Neutered or no, I think you'll still offer me a fine meal. And the meal you offer me won't be this diner's crappy steak either. If the situation wasn't a life-threatening one, I would have rolled my eyes at the lame supervillain dialogue. Before he became omnipotent, this one had read far, far too many comic books. I heard an ahem and looked up. I had never been so glad to see Graydon looming above me, looking down angrily at my seated self. I also felt guilty about what was about to come. Even Graydon didn't deserve snailhood or bimbohood or whatever teenage wet dream he was about to be conjured into. Bertie, you know better than to sit down at a guest's table. Sir, I'm afraid we need our waitress on the floor. Can we fix whatever's wrong? Oh, I think so, the guest said. With a snap of his fingers, Graydon turned inside out. Jesus fucking Christ! I yelled as the thing that had been Graydon let out an inhuman sound that was the product of a mutilated esophagus and voice box, and then swiftly crumpled to the ground, accompanied by a loud splat of liters of blood. Evidently, this one had shifted his modus operandi from supervillain to horror flicks, and the situation had become all the more dire. And, at that moment, Jody walked in, and I couldn't help Graydon, and I couldn't stop him, but I'd kill myself trying before he got to Jody. And he smiled as he detected my love for her starting to shine strong in me. And he looked towards her. And before he could think, before he could do anything, I reached down to the very bottom of my soul, and regardless of what happened to me or my form or my life, I reached down deep into the bottom of my soul, said a quick prayer to whomever might be listening to me, and started casting curses. When you curse, you hook into the current of life all around you. Through the movies I Netflixed and the books I read, well, let's put it this way. I smiled when I first saw a grappling hook being used in an action flick, because in many ways, it's like that. Except instead of pulling yourself towards the hook, you're pulling the thing you hooked towards you. You're mentally pulling reality towards your will. When I saw him look at Jody, I frantically cast hook after hook after hook after hook into the universe. Imagine me frantically running down a field full of cannons, all of them loaded with grappling hooks, all of them firing one after the other into the universe, all of them designed at saving her. They affected me, but not the way I thought. I didn't bounce off a gender pole and start ricocheting back towards being a man. I became more of a woman. I felt my ass and breasts become lovely and rounded. I felt my abdomen become flat. My hair went from neon orange to a lovely shade of red that cascaded down my back in lovely plaits. My legs felt as if they changed. I became taller, and my legs and calves felt stronger and were no doubt more shapely. But the hooks felt as if they were skittering down the wall of the universe. They weren't catching hold. I wasn't going to save her. And then, there's no other way to say this, I felt someone yank my hooks up from where they had fallen and sink them into the stream of the universe. And they took. This one time they took. And saints be praised, she was saved. Our guest looked at me in astonished surprise. I didn't know what I had cast, just that I wanted her to be safe. And so I didn't know what happened to him, only that he disappeared, not in a flash of white light or anything as theatrical as he would have wanted. Just that he was there 1 picosecond and gone the next. Not that I can see on the scale of picoseconds anymore, mind you. And with his disappearance, the diner's noise resumed as if nothing had happened. I stood there for a second or two, dazed. "Hey!" I heard a voice distantly. "Hey!" A voice came up to me. I looked up and saw Graydon, whole and unblemished. "Why are you standing by an empty table?" We've got the lunch rush coming in any second. If you've got nothing else to do, you can roll silverware. Graydon was very confused when I gave him a huge hug that lasted a few seconds, followed by an emphatic smacking kiss on the cheek. But I did notice a very small smile and some color rush to his cheeks. I went through the back door so hard that it slammed open, causing another background "hey" from Graydon inside. I saw Jody waiting for me by the wood picnic table we kept to take lunch out back during good weather. I ran towards her, grabbed her cheeks in both my hands, and gave her the longest, most loving kiss that anyone had ever given in the history of kisses. And I ought to know omniscience, whether former or no, you know. "I love you," I said. "Be with me forever." "Absolutely, Bobby," she whispered back. "Absolutely." And a bell rang in my soul, and I know now and forever that I am hers, that I am her Bobby.
Did you like the story? Hit that like button and tell me what you thought in the comments. Do you want to hear more stories? Subscribe and hit the bell. For exclusive content and early access, check out our Patreon. You can find the link in the description, or you can watch any of the videos shown on my right. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.